Friends, brothers, sisters, good evening. My name is Damaris Molina. I'm the program coordinator at the St. Joseph Justice Center. And on behalf of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Orange, I am so happy to welcome all of you to the second virtual public witness night. We're also very happy to welcome Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, also known as CLU, as our co-sponsor for tonight. So also welcome to our friends from CLU. According to the RAND Corporation, there are about 51 million immigrants in the United States today. That is about 14% of all people in the country. Between 10 and 11 million immigrants are undocumented. However, this number may be higher. This means that they cannot work legally, and yet they find ways to earn a living because they're often willing to do almost any job to sustain their families and provide a better future for their children. They contribute to their communities, making them more diverse. They play a key role in our economy, and their faith, culture, and traditions enrich our nation. Today, we have the privilege to hear Cecilia's story, the story with which many of the 51 million immigrants in the United States can identify. Well, let's begin our night first by asking our Creator to be with us and with our immigrant sisters and brothers. So now I invite Margaret Contreras to lead us in prayer.
Blessed are you, Lord God, King of all creation. Through your goodness, we live in this land that you have so richly blessed. Help us always to recognize that our blessings come from you and remind us to share them with others, especially those who come to us today from other lands. Bless, guide, and provide for those that have come to this country searching for a better life. Help us to be generous, just, and welcoming as you have been and are generous to us. Amen.
Amen. Amen. This person is Toby. Was she on there? Yes, it was her.
Wow.
Sorry, Walter, you're on mute.
Yes, my name is Reverend Walter Contreras, and I'm with the Presbyterian Church, and I am a organizer for CLU in Orange County. And I'm happy to have my whole family during this time together. My daughter Margaret, who just prayed, but my wife Ceci, who was born in El Salvador, and she came to the United States at the age of 10 years of age with her parents and brother. She graduated with a Bachelor in Psychology from Laverne University in the year 2006. Ceci is married with me 26 years ago and has two daughters. One of them is Margaret, the other one is Emily, ages 24 and 21. She's currently the CEO of a nonprofit called Shalom International, which that mission is to bring the gospel of the world and awareness of the environmental issues. Well, it's a joy for me to introduce her on a personal basis. Let me just say that my wife's story is a very moving story. She hasn't shared it to a lot of people. I found out after I was married for a while, and it just made me reflect on how deep and profound is everybody's story when you really find out and you meet people and why are they here and why they struggle and fear being in their own home country. So you'll hear some of that story. We've been a family who love the immigrant and who have done everything we can to help those ones who are less fortunate and those immigrants in our surrounding area. So I'm going to stop talking and let Cecilia share the story who's next to me.
Hi, how's everybody? I'm so glad to be invited. It's an honor. So like my husband was saying, I am from El Salvador. I came when I was 10 years old in 1987. So I'm now 47 years old. And let me just start by saying a little bit of El Salvador, not too much, but just the history. During that time when we came, it was like the Civil War. So the Civil War was from 1979 to 1992, 12 years. And it was between the government and left groups that were being, I guess, supported by the Soviet Union and Cuba, right? And so the government was being supported by the United States. So they were just fighting with each other because they wanted to turn El Salvador like Cuba. They wanted to be a communist country. So during that time, we lived in the capital, but my grandparents lived like about an hour and a half away. My mother was a dentist. She had her own practice, her own clinic. My dad worked for the government as someone that would work in the land, in the fields, like in remote areas, in the mountains, because the people at that time, the rich people, would steal the land from the government and the poor. So my dad had to go over there and say, no, your land is up to here, and this other land belongs to somebody else or the government. So he wasn't liked very much, And my mother started working with the Red Cross. So the Red Cross asked her to come and go with them to the remote areas too, where poor people lived, and they will give them medical attention that they couldn't afford anywhere else. So, we lived a good life. We were not poor. We were not rich, but we lived probably upper middle class, I would say. My brother and I went to private schools, and we didn't lack anything, but we did live in front of the university, which was the main university of El Salvador, which was taken by the military. So at night, there was a war going on. We had to sleep under our beds because if not, we would get shot. We would wake up in the morning and there would be, holes in our walls. And so and day to day, there was a curfew. If you didn't get home by 6 o'clock, you're going to get shot. It doesn't matter if you were a kid, a woman, a man, it didn't matter. So every morning, we were talking with my brother the other day, and every morning we would say bye to our parents. We didn't know if they were coming back because we knew that they went to remote cities and worked. So, it wasn't like we were thinking, oh, let's go to the United States. That was never our thinking. But it so happens to be that my mom, because she worked with the Red Cross, they told her, you're on a list to get kidnapped because the guerrillas want medical teams for themselves. And you guys go to remote areas and they know where you're at, so you need to get out. You can't be here. And my dad, the same thing. You're also on a list because you're not allowing them to take the land that they want, So within days, my dad, they tried to sell whatever they could, got the money, we left to Mexico. We stayed there for a week. And then, but we were kids. My brother and I were having fun. Oh, we're in Mexico. We're looking around. So after that, we traveled to Tijuana on a plane. But the minute we got to the airport, the cops were waiting for us. They know who you are. They know you're coming from somewhere else. They could tell that you're not from there, right? So they take us and they say, okay, what are you here for? You're crossing the border, right? And my parents like, yeah, we need to get to the United States because we can't go back to our country. So they said, okay, we're going to take you to a house. They took us to this house. So they're in business with the coyotes, the coyotes. The police is in business with them. So they said, okay, we're going to take you to this house. This house is full of people. I think there was like 60 people there, kids, women, men. And they said, okay, the women and the children are going to go to this side and the men are going to go to this side and you're going to sleep separate. And we were there probably a week. It was days. It was about a week. They would feed us rice, beans, tortillas, and they would take my dad. They would say, okay, you come with us. Every day they would go out. And we're like, where's he going? We didn't know. But they were making phone calls to family here because my dad had a sister here. And they're like, we need to know that you have somebody that's going to answer for you. So they arrange things, and they're like, we're going to pay. At that time, they paid $3,000 for all four of us to cross the border. That's 1987. That, it was a lot of money back then. So they had my parents had some cash with them. And then when we got here, my aunt was supposed to pay the rest. But the thing was that, my brother and I were 10 years old. So usually the kids that were there, they were younger. So we were the older kids. And they said, your kids, if they were younger, we will pair them up with a couple that's a US citizen and they can cross the border as their kids. But because your kids are too old, we cannot do that. Otherwise, They're going to start asking them questions. And, you know, kids usually are not reliable to answer questions. So they said, so they're going to have to go with you. We're leaving tomorrow, 1 o'clock in the morning. You have to be ready. Like, okay. So we started walking, we started going, and they took us to a motel. And from that motel, they said, we're going to wait an hour here because we have to wait until immigration, you know, is settled down. Like the immigration officers are not around that much. So we didn't even know where we were. Then we started, okay, we got to go. Let's go. We started walking the hills in Tijuana late at night. It was cold, so cold. And we just kept walking for hours and hours and hours. And then they said, okay, we need to wait here. We got to a dumpster, like, you know, where all the trash is thrown into, right? And they said, we're going to sleep here. You're going to wait. Because we got to wait for a freight truck that's going to come and get us. And so we waited there, we fell asleep, and they said, okay, wake up, it's here, you know. And the thing is, you had to be hidden because you will hear helicopters go by trying to figure out if people were trying to cross. So it's like, you need to hide, you cannot be seen. If not, we're gonna get caught. So then they took us into this truck, and it was, you know, those freight trucks that are like containers, right? They put everybody behind in the container. And, you know, my dad was a pretty big guy. He always lift weights and stuff. So he was like, so we were in the container, but it started getting so hot, we couldn't breathe. There was no air. And my dad's like, you need to open the door. You need to open the door on the bottom. There was a door on the bottom, not the one on the side, but on the bottom. And no, we're going to get caught. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to beat everybody up here because my family's not going to die here. So they would open the door, you know, a little bit, and then they would close it. They would open it, they would close it. I mean, some people passed out. So I think people didn't, so there were people that lost oxygen. They couldn't breathe. And finally we got to San Diego. So from San Diego, they took us into this white van with no windows, took us to another house where we had to wait to get picked up by my aunt. Some people, you know, they snuck out. They snuck out from windows, and because I guess they couldn't pay what they owe them. So finally my aunt came and picked us up, and, you know, it was a shock. It was a shock for my mom, mostly because she, you know, being a dentist, having her own practice, she had to come here and clean houses, you know, and she did that for about a year and a half. And she would cry, and she was like, I want to go back. I don't want to be here. You know, I never had to clean anything because, you know, we had maids, we had, you know, we didn't have to do anything. We didn't have to cook, we didn't have to clean, we didn't have to do any of that. And she was just like, I just don't want to be here. And my dad would tell her, well, you can go back, but you're not taking the kids. So, you know, that was the reason why I think I'm going to stay. I can't leave the kids. And she finally, you know, met people that were dentists here and helped her out to get into that again. So she was able to practice after being here for 2-3 years. But, you know, she never really assimilated so well. Like, she stayed here until 2015, and then she retired and went back to El Salvador. She has a house there. So she comes and goes every 6 months, but it was really hard for her. You know, the language, she learned English, but it wasn't her first language. So she never really felt really comfortable. My dad assimilated better. He really liked it here. And his family came, his parents, everybody came, his brothers and sisters. Sadly, though, he passed away in 2020, right before COVID, from cancer. But, you know, it was very hard for them. You know, after having everything coming here, having nothing, you know, we ate out of canned food for a long time, you know, cup of noodles. And there were times we didn't even have a refrigerator. So, you know, having that shock, that culture shock, it was really hard. But my brother and I, thank God, you know, we were young enough that we could assimilate. And, you know, he's also a Methodist pastor. So he has his own family, you know, and God has really blessed us. And we talk about it, you know, and we say, wow, God really kept us through that journey. I mean, you hear so many horror stories, you know, and God really kept us. Nothing really happened to us physically in that sense of being hurt or being, you know, robbed or anything like that. And people would take care of us. People would like, because I guess we were the only family that would say, oh, where are the kids? Are they okay? And they would like, take care of us and during the journey, and which was, and you see God's hand in that. So it was just a blessing. But after that, because it was a civil war in El Salvador, we were able to apply for political asylum. So we were here on the political asylum for about 10 years, and then we were able to get our residence and become citizens, which was really great. But even then, you only had a permit during the political asylum period. So people will still it was hard for us to apply for college because, oh no, that doesn't count. You need to be legal, So we had to, I remember going to different community college and trying to apply to study because they wouldn't receive my card everywhere, So you have to, you feel like, oh my God, I want to do something good, but I can't do it, and you feel less, right? You feel like you don't really belong. Even though you went to elementary school and high school and, here, but you're still seeing as that. So it was tough at times. But like I said, God blessed us and he continues to bless us. And I am just so grateful. And so that's my story.
Thank you, Margaret.
Yes,
What can I say? I'm still here? Okay. Let's just reflect a little bit of what Ceci just shared with us and how this story probably impacted you the most. So you can write down on the chat, okay? And how will you react if you are faced with the same circumstances, okay? And any words that you would like to offer Ceci. And so we'll just spend this little time of reflection and we will try to see if we can read some of this. And a reflecting part of it for me has been a journey of love and unconditional love. As I looked at my story of my wife and my in-laws and how God has brought us to this point, I will say my story is different, but is the story of my wife that really has motivated me more than ever before to not just hear the story, but just to have empathy, but do three things. Those three things are this: define this reality. Immigration and what's going on with immigration is not what the media says, nor what the politicians say. There's a real story behind everyone who crosses the border. And their stories, and I know Ceci probably didn't share everything because of the time. The second thing is to accept this reality. Some people don't accept this reality. And there's a reality that we must accept. The third one is to do something about it. And we're going to hear from Adam in a few minutes about this. But my reflection to you is, have you defined really in your heart what this really means? Have you accepted? Have you done something about it? And this is our cry. I have helped my daughters and thank God, my wife also, to share their story and to live a life that it is of loving and accepting the immigrant as they are, and to take the time to hear their stories. And that's the work that we do right now. I do that work as part of Clue, but also as a pastor. And we are part of a church that is a sanctuary church that we have people who have come just now from Central America and crossed the border for a long time. And they've been, crossing many places and they are here and we're helping them to find a place to, even in our church, we have a person, families living in there. So there's so many things that we can reflect on what to do with that, with this situation. And the words of Jesus comes to my heart, and I believe different religions believe the same thing, that we will be judged by the way we treat the immigrants. Jesus says, when I was a foreigner, when I was a stranger, you took me in He didn't say you just pray for me, or you just like, say hello to me. You took me in. What does that mean for us? And we as a family are trying to do everything we can to live according to that, because if a judgment is going to be declared like that, he's going to ask him, what did you do? What did you do? So thank you very much for the opportunity of having my family share. All of them are little organizers, and we are doing all we can to work for the immigrant population in this country. I am going to see is if we can have a word from Adam at this time. We would like for him to give us some actions, points that we can do, or unless there's something else that you would like for us to do before we pass it on to Adam.
That works. That works. Thank you. Yes.
Adam, who also works with me, and Clue, he's an organizer, so take it away, Adam.
Greetings, everyone. Well, I've known Ceci for many years, and that's the first time I've heard your story, Ceci. Thank you for that. That was, yeah, your story's a real gift to us, and yeah, it's a kind of experience that no person should have ever had to go through, and I'm sorry that y'all had to go through that. But it's stories like yours that keep people like me going and fighting and fighting and fighting. So for those who don't know me, my name's Adam Overton. My pronouns are he and they. I'm a faith-rooted organizer with CLUE, Clergy and Lady United for Economic Justice, a proud co-worker of Reverend Walter. And I primarily work, all my work is in Orange County. I've been here for 5 years now. And yeah, this issue is very close to my heart. It was through this kind of work, battling against ICE, when they abducted one of my neighbors while dropping off 2 of his 3 American-born daughters at school, that brought me into the struggle and led me to meeting the folks from CLUE and basically being moved from, being an atheist to back into being a Jew with an incredible amount of faith in people and in goodness and in the movement. So in any case, just want to tell you very quickly about really important, sad situation that's going on right now in Laguna Niguel. There is a USCIS service center in the city of Laguna Niguel. USCIS stands for the United States Citizenship and Immigrant Services organization. And it is the, for most of you who have been doing this kind of work, supporting immigrants and asylum seekers and folks like that, you're well aware of USCIS. That they're the ones who collect all of the paperwork, the hundreds of documents that folks have to fill out if they want to become a citizen or a resident or be able to get a work permit or a green card or become an asylee. All of that is handled by USCIS. And there's usually a backlog of years and years and years and years of folks who are waiting with this government agency and whoever is in power at the federal level, holding people's lives in limbo. And so, but the folks who work there, the workers who work there are heroes. These are the folks who go there every single day and process folks' paperwork, trying to help them get through this process, which is emotional and expensive, so that they can start, really, really start their lives here. without the worries of being deported or arrested and all of this. But as we know in the federal government, you know, things can get very political very quickly. And so this organization is often kicked back and forth like a football. And in this case, what's happened is this is the only service center in California, and they want to shut it down. There are 400 workers there who are mostly immigrants themselves. And many of them have worked there for anywhere from 10 to 25 years. And what the government wants to do is they want to shut down this service center so that there will be no remaining service center in the state of California. And they want to send it to Texas. And the reason they want to do that is because they actually have a really strong union at this center. And in Texas, they don't have a union. And what will happen is those jobs will pay about $15,000 less per year in salary than these. On their list as well is there also a service center in Vermont, I think, and another one in Nebraska, both of which have around the same number of workers and that are also have strong unions. And the plan is to go to each one of them, fire all the workers, and send these jobs to Texas. So right now, we basically about 50 people are being released just about or laid off just about every week. And we've been going and standing with them every Wednesday between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. to support them and let them know that the faith community stands with them and is praying for them and accompanying them through this process. And so the ask then is that, of course, if you'd like to come by and drop off some popsicles or snacks or anything like that, or want to pick up a sign, we'll be there, every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Or they'll be there. We might not necessarily be there the whole time, but we have a faith community letter that we're asking folks to please click and send to the directors of USCIS, and calling on them to stop the layoffs and to reverse them. That we need this center in California. That we need that these workers deserve, to continue working on this huge backlog that is. I mean, I can't even imagine the delays that people are already experiencing. And now on top of that, they want to shut this place down. It's like backlogs upon backlogs. And so the government is hurting so many people in this process. So I just put in the chat window the link to an online form, and would so appreciate if folks would be willing to click to send a letter to those folks. So far, we have collected over 100 letters to folks, and we want to keep those streaming in. And we can, if you mark on there that you want to stay posted, we can continue to keep you posted as we receive, next steps and suggestions for ways to continue to support these folks. Anyways, I'm sorry that was a little long-winded, but.
No, thank you so much, Adam. That is such an important issue. I'm Alice Druffel, and I'm the legislative advocate for the Sisters of St. Joseph of Orange Justice Center. And I'd like to thank Ceci for sharing her story. We know that this is your story, and we're aware that hundreds of thousands of other migrants identify with your struggles and work for resilience. So thank you for being their voice as well. And we'd like to thank Reverend Walter for the opportunity to collaborate with you and for having Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice co-sponsor tonight's session. And we want to thank all of you for joining us tonight and hearing Ceci's story. All registered participants will receive an email tomorrow with the link to today's recording, along with the information we've shared today. We invite you to continue reflecting on what you can do to continue to support our migrant brothers and sisters. And there are beautiful messages in the chat for you, Ceci, and our heartfelt love goes out to you and your family.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Before we say goodnight, and we shut down, you're invited to stay and join us in community for a few minutes. And we hope to see you next week for our third virtual public witness. We will hear Sister Deirdre Griffin, who's a Sister of St. Joseph of Springfield. She currently ministers at the U.S.-Mexico border in El Paso, Ciudad Juarez, along with Marinol lay missioners. So please do join us for our evening next Tuesday.